My name is JB Font, and you're watching the FHL Network Live on Sunday. Today, we have a great show for you today. We'll be discussing a various amount of topics that I have been looking at. And one of the things that I actually wanted to start out with is that there's been a few photos that have been circulating online on the doors of businesses, especially ones that belong to large corporations. And the employees are stating that the working conditions are so bad and that their pay is so bad that they are either not coming into work or they're quitting in protest. I just want to show you guys a couple examples of this. And I just want to see, what you in particular think. And just let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. So this is the first one. And the first one, it says, the workers at this Chipotle said, no more exploiting us. This was tweeted out by Brands Owned. So thank you to Brands Owned for this. And we'll zoom in here. And it says, attention Chipotle customers. Want to know why we're closed? Ask our corporate offices why the employees are forced to work in borderline sweatshop conditions for 8+ hours without breaks. We are overworked, understaffed, underpaid, and underappreciated. Almost the entire management and crew have walked out until further notice. People should be over profits. Repost this if you agree. Help spread awareness. And it says free chip workers, hashtag fair wages, hashtag fair houses, hashtag give us a break. And they also said we demand change. It says higher pay, basically alluding to $15 an hour. And they say overworked and underpaid. Some of these other ones are really small, so I'm not going to try to read those. And it also says, sorry for the inconvenience, but due to us being overworked and understaffed and underappreciated, we are protesting until conditions are changed. So this just goes to show that there is a trend, on the United States. Hey, everybody. Nice to see you. And so this trend that's going on within the United States right now that we can see is that people are starting to realize what they deserve. This is a good thing. If you're someone who is a capitalist or on the right, I want you to realize how good this is, because if you believe in the free market principles, this is the free market working as it should. Because according to free market principles, then what this is businesses now have to compete, as they should in the free market, for workers and to be able to pay them compensation. Now, there was someone in my Twitter mentions not too long ago, and they said, well, the government shouldn't be competing with businesses in regards to pay, because you have a lot of people that are still on unemployment, and their unemployment is actually better for them than it is what the pay is. So it's something that a lot of people are looking at. They're going, wait, I'm actually able to survive better on unemployment than I am just working. Is it laziness? Is it some type of desire to just not work? No, absolutely not. Okay, it is what's the best word to use? It is a means to survive. It's self-preservation. So when people do things like this, then guess what? They are going to survive better than what they could with working with you. And if that is what it means, if they can't get employees, well, I guess they're just going to have to raise their rates, right? There's another one, and this one was actually written in an article. And I want to also show you this one as well. And I think I shared this a couple days ago, but just for, you know, references, I just want to put a pin on it and nail it down, so to speak. And it says employees quit by posting signs at Dollar General showing why no one wants to work. And on the sign, on the front sign, it said, Google General Strike and learn how we can take our power back. To our loyal customers who treat us with respect, thank you. We love you. The next one says close indefinitely because Dollar General doesn't pay a living wage or treat their employees with respect. This is pretty much the crux of the entire argument here, put so succinctly by our comrade who posted this on the window. Underneath it says capitalism will destroy this country. If you do not pay people enough to live their lives, why should they slave away for you? You know, it's funny. It looking at this, especially at the slave away for you part. If slaves actually had a choice, they truly had a choice, they would have just walked off. But because of the way the system works, they didn't. They would have died. But now we have a choice, and if we walk away from people who aren't going to pay us enough, they're not going to kill us. And this is one of the things that is so important, especially about a general strike, is that the only thing that can be a damage to us is that we don't have resources to take care of ourselves. And this is where mutual aid comes in. In fact, this needs to be the first part of the conversation in regards to a general strike, is that we have to start establishing a means of mutual aid so that people are able to help themselves by community action and through community action. And there was the former employee that actually posted this, and this is the original tweet, and it's burnt_LVS. Thank you for posting this. Comrade he says, got real tired of those no one wants to work signs on closing stores. This is how my coworker and I quit our job today. Speak truth to power. And this is something that we all have to do in our lives as much as we possibly can, because ultimately you spend hours and hours of your life at these businesses, and if it is not being a benefit to you, then why in the hell are you there? And the thing is that there's a collective effort from the owner class to keep you at such a point where you have to accept whatever crumbs that they give you. One finger doesn't have much power, but five fingers together make a fist, and that has power. So with your community, with your coworkers, you can make that fist and grant power. I want to go to the comments here. Um, and hopefully you'll see some of these as they, you know, uh, will be of interest to you. Intestinal bookworms. That's funny. I'm sorry. Drove past this a couple days ago. Low wage workers getting desperate. This is at a McDonald's. $300 hiring bonus now hiring. I'm going to tell you guys something. Don't fall for it. If the hourly wage is not a living wage, do not fall for that hiring bonus bullshit. Because that hiring bonus will have strings attached. Do not, I repeat, do not follow that. Can Gorilla says, what is not said on that sign is that the $300 is contingent on working for 3, 6, however many months, and will probably be paid out in installments. And the last installment will probably be canceled by the franchise. Happened to me with my first job at Burger King. LOL. And so it's crazy that they rather just make it seem like, oh, we're giving out a hiring bonus. But yet, if you guys just really wanted workers, just pay people what they deserve. Now you're just trying to go to hiring bonuses like they're part of the NBA or the NFL or something like that. Like, get the fuck out of here. What's the matter with you? We'll go to one more. Excuse me. Yeah, it says kudos. Each and every one of those no one wants to work signs should be torn down and replaced with the this business does not pay a living wage sign. And so this is exactly what it means. They just don't want to pay a living wage. So there's absolutely really no reason for them to do this but greed. And so that's one of the things that, we need to focus in on. Shame them, name them. If you are thinking about leaving your job because they're not paying you a living wage and they are overworking you and underpaying you, and you decide to leave, post a sign, take a picture, put it up on Twitter, name and shame. It's not illegal to do that, by the way. And you're letting them know that, hey, if you guys don't want to pay us a living wage, then it sucks to be you, because now nobody's going to want to work for you because they all know that you don't want to pay a living wage. So I want to move on to another topic. This one's tough. So as many of you know, I lost a family member to COVID last week. And I'm going to go off on a limb and say this here. Could, if we had done all we can from a societal and governmental aspect, would they still be alive? I'd probably say most likely. Why do I say this? And I hate to politicize things, but politics is part of your life and is part of your survival, because those policies will either harm or help you. And so some of the policies that could have prevented my cousin from dying last week are things that the Biden administration, the Biden regime, and people like Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, and many of these others just failed to do. Well, what's the first one? The first one is pay people $2,000 per month to stay home. This is not really a foreign concept. If you look at all the other developed countries in the world, they are actually paying people to stay home so that they don't come in contact with others and they don't spread the virus. It's easy and simple as that. And you cannot give me the how will you pay for it BS, because how did they pay for propping up the stock market last spring? They injected over $4 trillion into the markets. I will repeat myself. They injected over $4 trillion into the markets. They didn't tax all that. In fact, modern monetary theory actually dictates that if you are a currency issuer, which the United States is, it's a fiat currency, then all they got to do is print it and then spend it. And that's exactly what they did. They just went on the keyboard and $4 trillion and then shipped it off to the markets. So, with that being said, they literally could have just paid people to stay home, and it would have also worked, especially if they did it just universally, because then you wouldn't have the rich and the oligarchs going, oh, well, this is just a giveaway to the poor. It's not a giveaway if you're getting it. So therefore, if they would have gotten it, it wouldn't have been a giveaway. So $2,000 checks to make people to have people stay home, because then if they have the money to live, then they won't feel a need to have to go out to work to make that money. It's 1 + 1 = 2. The next thing that should have been done was do a rent or mortgage moratorium on residences and businesses. They could have done that as well. If you do a rent and mortgage moratorium, say for instance you have a business is a mini mall, right? A strip mall. And that strip mall rents those parcels out to businesses. Well, you cancel the rent, which is fine, and those businesses are able to survive. But what about the person that owns that parcel? Then they're going to want to kick those businesses out because they're not profiting, because they still have their mortgage to pay. Well, if you cancel the mortgage for that parcel, then guess what? Then that person also doesn't have to worry about having to pay the bank for not in they're not receiving rents from the parcels from those small businesses. So you're saving businesses and businesses that profit off of businesses. So, of course, I'm not too fond of landlords, but if this is a way to keep people surviving, then by all means do it. And so, those of us who are renters, people like myself, this would have helped out immensely. But then you got some people who are suffering and they do own their home. What about them? They also need a moratorium as well, because a lot of them, they can't make their payments on their mortgage. And do we really want people to be foreclosed on and evicted from their homes, especially if they have a long history in their homes? That's inhumane. And as somebody who's for the housing for all policy, I honestly think that this should have been one of the first things that have been implemented. Just want to stop and say, please like, share, and subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so that you won't miss out on any of our content. And thank you all for joining. I really appreciate it. Just going to stop here for a second and take a look at our comments from the YouTube side. Julie Not Funny, she says, isn't it our tax money that they pay us with? Absolutely. That's exactly that it is. I mean, it's our money. So why is there such a tight fist on giving us our money to be able to survive? That doesn't make any sense. Um, says that money, Holly Holmes says that money goes back into the economy and local stores. Absolutely. And that's one of the things that it does, but unfortunately, the politicians, their focus is so uh, specific on large corporations because that's who donates to them, that they don't give this any consideration whatsoever. They don't really care. And they'll tout, oh, I love small businesses. I care so much about small businesses. No, they fucking don't. They do not care about small businesses. Because if they did, then over 40% of them wouldn't have closed. You know, and, you know, E. Heller, I I perfectly agree with you. Um, Each Heller says, "Who cares if it's a giveaway or not? It's our public money." You know, and here's a funny thing. Let me ask you this: if you take money, like let's say you take small increments of money and you pay it into a bank over time, but then an emergency happens, and then you decide to take that money out to help yourself out. Is that a giveaway? No, it is not a giveaway. It is your money. So therefore, there is no government giveaway. There is no government handout. There's no such thing. If it's yours, it's not a handout. If it is yours, it is not a giveaway. If you are a taxpayer, any money you receive from the government is your money. It is not a giveaway. Do not let anybody gaslight you into that bullshit. That's yours. Ugh, they get on my nerves with that bullshit. Okay. Um. Yes, Roxanne Duvereau. Yeah. Federal government does not operate like a household. Absolutely. And yeah, they just don't care about the small businesses that they operate in. So what's next? Do a nationwide lockdown for 6 weeks. We could have done it. We could have done it in the beginning of the pandemic, but they decided not to. Nationwide lockdown would have been the most logical option. But I'm going to talk shit about my own country. So be prepared. And it's not that I hate the country, it's that I want it to improve. Just like anybody who loves something, they critique it because they want it to be better. We as Americans can be haughty in our individualism. What do I mean by that? A lot of these countries, developed countries especially, they locked down for a few weeks. And they said the only things that will remain open are grocery stores, pharmacies, hospitals, some essential businesses, and that's it. Everybody stay home. Don't go out unless you absolutely have to. We as Americans go, you can't infringe upon my rights. I need to stay. I can go out wherever I want because I'm an American. Me. And that's what it's about. That's individualism. Instead of it being, oh snap, if I go out, I could potentially harm my fellow Americans. So yeah, I agree. I'm gonna stay home. It's gonna be uncomfortable for a little while, but for the sake of lives, I'm gonna stay home and make sure that my fellow Americans are all healthy because I mean we're all in this together. That's the collectivist thing to do. And it would have made it a whole lot easier if they had $2,000 checks and a rental mortgage moratorium so that they can stay home during a pandemic that killed my cousin last week. Keep schools closed to prevent further spread. Fact, kids can also spread the virus. Also a fact, a kid may have the virus and not know that they have the virus and be asymptomatic, meaning they can carry the virus and then give it to you without showing any symptoms whatsoever. This has also happened to people in my family. So, this is one of the reasons why we keep the schools closed. And you don't have to worry about childcare, especially if you are being paid to stay home. Parents who have kids in essential businesses and things like that, that is something else. If we could have had maybe a different provision, I'm not an expert, and plus, I wasn't hired to be an expert in the government, but that also would have been something that helped. You have some people who maybe could have babysat or something to help out parents, but for the most part, a lot of people could have stayed home and not worked so that they can stay with their kids and then they won't have to worry about childcare. And then the kids would have been able to do remote learning. We could have did a huge um, broadband infrastructure in the meantime to help kids who lack things like broadband so that they can receive schooling. We could have did I forget the name of the law when the president, if you guys in the comments can help me out here, where the president takes over an industry for a short period of time and has things manufactured in case there's a crisis. You know, the president probably could have had a computers manufacturer do a mass production, and the government could have paid for it, a mass production of laptops for kids who are underprivileged, and then sent those laptops, you know, to underprivileged kids throughout the country to various different schools so that they could stay home as well. This is all a reason to employ some of these laws so that we can have families that aren't affected by this virus and have more people die. That's really this is. It's just a life-saving effort in cutting this off, you know, at the root so that we won't have to continue to deal with this over a year later, like we are right now. That being said, we have a president that just finished his first 100 days, and he's a Democrat. Democrat. Fact, Democrats are not the party that believes in science. They only believe in science if it works in the interest of their corporate donors. They don't believe in it at all. And so, with that being said, there's proof of that. Biden intends to keep things open, especially schools. Anybody who's a teacher or anybody who's an educator or works at a daycare knows that schools are a petri dish. Kids don't have the wherewithal. A kid will pick something off the floor and put it in their mouth. And so it's difficult to keep track of that. And then a lot of parents, they don't take the responsibility of keeping their kids at home if their kids seem like they're symptomatic. You have a lot of parents that go, I don't care if you're sick, you're still going to school, which a lot of people deem as the right thing to do to keep them in school. But doesn't their health come first? Anyway, I digress. But the thing is that people have to, uh, the Democrats do not believe in science because they're like, oh, well, kids, they have to go back to school. And it's like, yeah, no, we still have a pandemic going on. I think that the best thing to do would be to put them, in front of a computer at home so that they won't spread the virus, so that when they go to see grandma or grandpa, they won't spread the virus to them and then they end up dying. But it's all about money. Follow money. What's their corporate donors? What do they look at? Um, and while we're looking at corporate donors, let's look at old Uncle Joe. And let's see his. And this is from Forbes. It says the billionaires backing Joe Biden's campaign. So if you take a look here, the billionaires have went up exponentially. And I just want to give attention to this graph. And here's how Joe Biden's donors got rich. So a lot of Joe Biden's donors are in finance and investments. Well, he is the senator from what is that? I guess it's MDNA, MBMA, something like that. Sounds like a drug, if you ask me, but whatever. So finance and investments, and you think about he was the author of the bankruptcy bill. And one of the reasons why you can't declare bankruptcy on your student loan debt is because of who? Joe Biden. Technology right now, we have a lot of these companies that are actually selling our data, and they are in a position where they are silencing voices. A lot of times they silence voices on the left. Yes, they do sometimes silence voices on the right, but typically it's directed at the left. And so therefore you have these tech billionaires, especially for these companies like Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and whatnot. And so they do not want to hear those of us on the left, our collective voice, when we talk about having our freedom, and that freedom that we want means that we do not want corporate control over us, and that ruins their gravy train. Fashion and retail goes without saying. Real estate, also look at the housing crisis that we continuously have. You have a real estate crisis, but yet they also contribute to Joe Biden greatly. And so therefore things like, rent and mortgage moratoriums would probably be something that they wouldn't want him to do either, because they want to keep that short-term profits coming in. Media and entertainment. This is the one that I really want to talk about. Why is it media and entertainment? Well, think about it this way. How adversarial has the media or entertainment been against Joe Biden? In fact, they are the primary reasons as to why Joe Biden got the presidency. They manufactured consent. They manufactured consent like a motherfucker. And so this is one of the things that is so dangerous, especially right now. Look at what's going on with YouTube. YouTube is putting out algorithms to silence voices of independent media. Now, yeah, you got some right-wing independent media that just is atrocious. But at the same time, they're going after those of us who are pushing for radical things like universal health care and ending for-profit wars and making sure that every person has an education that includes a 4-year college degree. We're so bad. We encourage democracy in the workplace. Ooh, we don't want more democracy, don't we? So that's, part of the whole media landscape that we have right now. And so, I am grateful for this platform that I have to be able to speak to all of you, because if not, then there will be less voices on the left, especially voices of color on the left, that wouldn't get any attention. So please make sure to, share, subscribe, and like. Um, Going back to the comments here, I know I missed a few. Um, let's see here. Uh, this one's a good one. I'm gonna put this on screen. Malik Clary. I want to make sure that I got the name correct. Malik Clary says a lot of Americans don't understand that society and our institutions are essentially contracts. So, in exchange for our labor, time, and contributions, we should be getting more safety nets. It's our money. Absolutely. Thing is that when it comes to us and our labor, that is a business relationship. So, therefore, if we do not see it as lucrative as it should be, we will not do business with you. And so the government is there to help take care of the people in times of crisis. So therefore, we essentially are the government, and we, pay ourselves, through that government institution in order to prop ourselves up in cases of crisis like we are right now. Um, let's go here. Let's go to the comments a little bit more. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's MBNA, but it still sounds like a drug. I'm sorry. Thank you. And Chris Richards, um, it's good to see you, man. I'm glad to have you. Um, and one of the things that I wanted to also discussed. Well, a bit of a that's a bit of a Freudian slip, I guess. Um, and this has to do with um, what's been lately on the news. It's a sad topic, and you know, but unfortunately, a lot of these topics are sad because of the capitalist, imperialist system that we live in. But I just want to bring this to attention because this has to deal with foreign policy, and foreign policy absolutely affects us. And this is from Al Jazeera. Why American politicians cannot say the word Israeli apartheid. American political language does not have the capacity to address Palestine because it is disabled by white supremacy. This is an article by Miriam Bagati. And one of the things that it is talking about in this article in particular is that it says Israel is forcibly kicking out 2,000 Palestinians out of their homes, and the U.S. government isn't really doing shit about it. Just want to cover a little bit of this article. And it says, over the past few weeks, as the Israeli colonial forces escalated their brutal violence against the Palestinians of occupied Jerusalem, many hope for some kind of sharp reaction from the new Biden administration. Side note, you're not going to hear shit from Biden. But that did not come, of course. Instead, we once again heard about how deeply concerned the U.S. State Department is about unilateral steps that exacerbate tensions, and that both Israeli and Palestinian officials need to act decisively to de-escalate tensions. Kind of hard to do that when people are kicking you out of your homes. Says some Palestinians also expected more from the progressive members of U.S. legislature, but they too dressed their words in euphemisms. Representative Andre Carson tweeted that he is extremely dismayed by Israel's efforts to forcibly evict Palestinians from their homes. Representative Marie Newman called the State Department to immediately condemn these violations of international law. Strongly worded letters. I guess that's going to work. Representative Mark Pocan co-authored a letter with others expressing deep concern about Israel's imminent plan to forcibly displace nearly 2,000 Palestinians. And as for her part, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez called the Israeli army's actions inhumane and said the U.S. must show more leadership in safeguarding Palestinian rights. Just a month ago, in an interview with Rabbi Michael Miller, head of the Jewish Community Relations Council of New York, the progressive congresswoman also talked about valuing a process where all parties are respected and building a path to peace. Remember that clusterfuck of an interview? I do. Conspicuously absent from all these statements are words that objectively assess the situation in Palestine, such as occupation, apartheid, settler colonialism, and ethnic cleansing. It is disappointing, although not surprising at all, that American politicians choose to use such language that obfuscates the reality of the Israeli occupation in Palestinian lands. Yet, the problem here is not just what they say, but also what they feel compelled, also why they feel compelled to say it. So, we're not just talking about an issue of semantics, it is really an issue of recognizing what the actual problem is. And so the mere fact that they choose not to call it what it is, and also not to make this bigger in scope of what the issue is, tells you a lot about them. For instance, some of these politicians, if I perhaps were a politician, don't give your hopes up, I'm not running for office. But if I were one of these politicians, there will be a press conference immediately right now. And the press conference I will be condemning, and I will be saying we need to support a boycott, divestment, and sanction of the Israeli government. Because what they are doing to the Palestinian people is essentially apartheid. And if we spoke out against apartheid in South Africa, then we need to do it the same in any other place, no matter ally or foe. And the mere fact that we have these people in Palestine and Gaza Strip and the West Bank, who are being treated like worse than animals, is something that should be heavily protested, and it's something that we should be proverbially banging on the front doors of the White House and telling the president, you need to get your shit together, and you need to tell these people, if they don't cut the shit out, then we are going to take whatever money that we give you. I think it's what, $3 billion to Israel. Yeah, say bye bye to that money, and we'll sanction the government. Something, I don't know, but name, shame, and punish them. Take any and all aid away, and start directly giving aid to Palestinian people. Something, but at the same time, you're forcing this institution, and if it's one thing that I've noticed, Palestinians tend to be a bit more browner than Israelis, so there is a bit of a white supremacist element to it. So this just it just still buttresses the fact that we have to deal with this not just in the United States, but this is in the world over. And so they do not care about Palestinians the way they should, and there is no condemnation whatsoever, against the Israeli government. And it's not anti-Semitic to condemn the Israeli government, because you're condemning the government, not the people as a whole. So this is one of the things that I feel is a terrible precedent, and it has been going on for far too long. And honestly, I think that any and all politicians need to stop tweeting and start fighting their own party and government, within, the proper ramifications. And by fighting, I'm not talking about just writing a strongly worded letter. No, I'm talking about naming and shaming and getting on social media, not just social media, but getting in front of cameras and condemning Biden by name, and condemning Pelosi by name, and Schumer by name, all these other politicians, name and shame, the Secretary of State, name and shame, Netanyahu, all of them, and let people know all the things that are going on against the Palestinian people. Show clips, let people know what's really going on, and don't hide it, because a lot of people are probably unaware, and they think it's such a huge, complicated issue when it's not really that complicated of an issue. It's just the same thing that we've been dealing with for the last 400 or 500 years: white supremacy. And it's something that needs to end. And one of the main purveyors of it is capitalism. And now we see exactly why they don't want to talk about it, because that ruins their gravy train. Back to the comments. Let me see. So let me see. Let me go through and go up. We can go to this one. This kind of goes back to the whole discussion that we had about workers. This is from Julie Not Funny. Says US citizens as a whole have a very low self-esteem. We don't realize how much value is in our labor. We deserve so much more, higher pay, benefits, and all of it. Absolutely, Miss Julie. The thing is that we have been propagandized to think that we deserve less or we're just not working hard enough. And unfortunately, the notion that we don't deserve to live for the pay that we get is absolutely nonsense. In fact, we deserve to live, period, just by virtue of us being human beings. The human value has been stripped mentally away from us. So, therefore, we feel like we don't have inherent value unless we produce something for our labor. If that was the case, then babies would have no value because babies do not produce labor. But we give them extremely high human value, and rightfully so. But what is a baby? A baby is just a newborn human. Humans have value just by being a human being. And we lost that within this nation. And unfortunately, uh, the fight to get it back has been an arduous fight. And so this is something that we need to push more forward. But at the same time, there needs to be a fight against not just the government, but also the corporations. And sometimes this means making the corporations feel the pinch. And that pinch may be in the form of a general strike. And I think that we may be inadvertently getting into a general strike before our very eyes. And this is a good thing because now you have a lot of workers that are actually refusing to work for starvation wages. And you also have many businesses like Walmart. They make their employees part time and they work them just to the point where it's part time hours, or they'll overwork them, but then they'll finagle it some way so that they're still considered part time, so that they won't pay them benefits like they should. And so, because of that, then they are stripping people of the value of their labor, and they are making it so that uh, these workers are dependent on the safety nets, which is fine. You know, we need these safety nets, but at the same time, it is unfair that their labor is being devalued. The Walton family should not be billionaires. Jeff Bezos should not be a billionaire. Elon Musk should not be a billionaire, and he should have not been on SNL last night. Because why was he on SNL? Elon Musk was on SNL simply because he has a lot of money. Having a lot of money does not make you successful, and it does not make you the smartest person in the room. It just makes you an exploiter. That's all it is. So he's being rewarded for being an exploiter. People like Warren Buffett should not be a billionaire. We should not have any. And so, I don't know. We should just get rid of them. And the only way to do that is to take our power back through not giving them more labor and not consuming their wares. Back to the comments. Skeptical Mantis channel. I want to bring this to attention as well. This is actually a really good one. Thank you. Um, Skeptical Mantis says, have you seen the national strike in Colombia? Yes, I have been seeing a little bit of it. I have not been following as much as I should. Um, that is bad of me as a comrade, and I do apologize. But I do know that it has been basically a general strike that erupted, an impromptu general strike. And I think it was one of the reporters that said that it actually had a 70% approval rating before it even started. And that they are literally killing protesters for protesting. Sounds a lot like the United States. So, for the people and the workers of Colombia, I stand with you. If I knew Spanish, I would say it in Spanish. I do apologize, but I stand with you to the people in Colombia, because uh, anyone who is standing up for workers' rights is a comrade. And the left movement doesn't just extend to the borders of the United States, it extends around the world. Hell, if there were worker strikes and movements on Mars, I would be with the Martians. This is how we have to be. This is what solidarity means. And it also means speaking out about these things because the media does not want to cover these things, especially what's going on in Colombia. They don't want to cover these things. I think it was in Lebanon, they were having a strike as well. There was an uprising in Lebanon as well. There was uprises, whenever there's an uprise in places like France. There was a huge strike that was happening in India. These things aren't brought up by the media because they don't want people to get any leftist ideas. And instead of being actually objective and going, oh, we should cover this too, they're covering for the corporations. That's what they do. Um, so yeah, it's been 10 days long in Colombia. That is that is impressive, and my thoughts are with the Colombian people. Um, let's see. Um, Leslie commented this, and I kind of want to ask. Says anytime someone asks you how do we solve climate change, destroying capitalism, imperialism should be at the top of your list. Absolutely. Uh, Anybody that pushes back against that is either um, dumb or unaware, or maybe both. Or they just want to reap the benefits of having, all the money in the world. And to them, it's like, fuck everybody else. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that are the latter. We have this I got mines, um, screw the rest of you type of attitude. And that's what we call individualistic because they focus on the self so much. Now, am I against people being independent? No, no, because, we are deeply independent individuals. But the whole individualistic mindset to not see us all in this together and not see us as a collective of people that if you hurt, I hurt. If you are experiencing joy, I experience joy. If, you know, harming one harms us all. If you don't have that type of mindset, then that leads to the collective destruction of all of us because then there's a symbiotic relationship between all humans. I don't know if symbiotic's the right word, but we all are linked in some way, shape, or form. So that's something that we should be focused more on. Is making sure that everyone else is taken care of. And then we all make sure it's like it shakes hands with each other. We all interlock because that's what humanity is all about. So that brings me to the end of the Sunday live show today. I just want to thank all of you for chiming in, and I thank you for all the comments. And please make sure to like and share and subscribe to the FHL. Next week, I will have a special guest, and stay tuned for that. And also be sure to tune in to our live show where we have the entire FHL roundtable that airs live on Thursdays at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Eastern Standard Time is the best time. I know Jackie's going to come for me for that because she's always about Pacific Standard Time. But oh, whatever. But thank you all for joining, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care.